This is the Sales Bible Podcast, episode 308, the top 10 sales and marketing books for 2020, with returning guest Michele Kelley.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Welcome back, Michele. Are you ready to babble?
Woo! Let's do it. I'm ready.
Michele, you're the voice of Habanero Media.
I'm so proud of that.
People ask me about that like all the time.
Habanero.
You did a great job on that. I'm so excited to have you here back on the podcast today because you and I have a passion about books.
Yes.
And I was thinking that wouldn't it be fun to do the top 10 books that we thought really added value to our lives back in 2019. And even though here it is February, it's still not too late to talk about some of these books. And so I asked you if you could bring a few books in today and to talk about them. And I see a pile of books there.
Yeah, this is exciting. You know, Lord Byron said, a drop of ink will make a million think. And that's what these books are doing.
Oh, I love that quote.
Thank you.
That is really terrific.
He was a really good writer.
Yeah. So I've got like 5 books here that came from people who were on the podcast last year. And these are ones that I felt like I really enjoyed. I thought there were a lot of value. It was fun for me looking at these books is that I should reread some of these, or I should get deeper into them.
Those are the best books when you go back to them again and again, and each time you get something different from it.
Yeah. What are you looking for in a book when you read one?
I am looking for inspiration, and I am looking for a book to inform my decisions in business and in life. And oftentimes, there's always at least one takeaway that is a change maker. And those are the books we're going to be talking about today, and I'm really excited about that.
I think what I'd like to do is start with you.
All right.
Is it going to be this one that's on the top here?
Yes.
You warned me about this one.
Yes, I did, because I walked in here not knowing if you would find a children's book to be like my top pick for the books we're talking about today, and you were so great to embrace something different. I look at books as being a segue into a whole nother world, and this one did it for me. It's called What Do You Do with an Idea? Now, all of us are creative geniuses. Every single one of us, we have our own story, and every day we're adding to our story in life and in business. And this book was a path to inspiration in taking an idea and giving birth to it in the world. It was given to my husband, actually, from my daughter, Catherine, and she wrote a little note in the front that said, always let your greatest ideas live. I love you. Your daughter, little angel. And this is exactly...
What's the title of the book?
Oh, the title of the book. What do you do with an idea? What do you do
by who?
With an idea? By Kobe Yamada, illustrated by May Bessem. And this was a New York Times bestseller. And, of course, I won't read the entire book, but I want to read just a couple key parts to it that to share the magic. It's basically about a little boy who has this egg that follows him around with little feet and a little crown on its head, and that egg is an idea. And he says to himself, but there was something magical about my idea. I had to admit I felt better and happier when it was around. But, okay, so now, everybody out there, when you have an idea, what are we afraid of? We're afraid people won't like it. We're afraid that people will stomp on our little egg. We're afraid that it's not worthy of the world. And that's what he finds. All of these fears crowd around him until one day he says, something amazing happened. My ideas changed right before my very eyes. It spread its wings, took flight, and burst into the sky. So, this book is less than 3 minutes to read, yet it gives us the confidence to go forward with our ideas. That's a great book.
Awesome. Again, the title of the book?
What Do You Do with an Idea? Written by Kobe Yamada, illustrated by May Bessem, and it is a New York Times bestseller, so a lot of street cred there.
Excellent.
Pat?
All right.
Tag, you're it.
Okay, the book I want to my first book I want to talk about is by Phil Jones, who was a guest on the podcast, and it's called Exactly What to Say: The Magic Words for Influence and Impact. And what's cool about this book, it's actually one of a series of 3 books. When Phil said he wanted to be on the podcast, he actually sent me all 3 books. They're all really interesting, but this is the most recent one. He wrote another one that talked about magic words. And what this one did is kind of like pull that together in kind of phrases. And I think the best way to say it, let me read right here. It says here, the worst time to think about the thing you are going to say is in the moment you are saying it.
Deep stuff.
This book prepares you for nearly every known eventuality and provides you with a fair advantage in almost every conversation.
Ooh. Okay, watch out, Roderick. I'm going to use this book to win those arguments.
This book is chock full of things, because this is how I like to think of when I'm coaching people in selling is like, say it this way. Say it this way. This is how I like to phrase things. And I'll do this book is what Phil here is doing the same thing, and he wrote a whole book on it, which is smarter than me. Like, let me just give you one example here. I'm not sure if it's for you, but. So what's powerful about that? When you say that, when you're talking to somebody and you're trying to persuade them, I love the idea that they say, I'm not sure if this is for you, Michelle, but it gives you a couple things here. And I think, and he says it in here, he says, when you say to somebody, I'm not sure if it's for you, but a little voice inside your listener's head hears, you might want to look at this.
And also, I mean, neuroscience tells us that when we have that little bit of safety where we're not committed to the idea that is about to be presented, we feel more open to listening to it. So that's a good one.
Yep. I think the second one kind of goes to that. Like, if you asked a room on 1,000 people whether they considered themselves open-minded, I'm sure 900 of them would raise their hands. Are you open-minded? Would you be open to an idea?
Yes.
Yeah, you're not going to say no. You're not going to say, no, I'm not open-minded.
Absolutely.
So that creates a possibility in people's heads that is positive. Mm-hmm. As opposed to, I've got something you should be doing. Or, how salespeople muck that up. But that's the book.
Love it.
It's full of these things. Super fun to read. A lot I could learn from this book. I've learned from this book, and in going through this, I'd like to reread it again. So, Phil Jones, Exactly What to Say: The Magic Words for Influence and Impact. So that's my second book.
Love it.
Oh.
You broke a rule.
I broke a rule.
Slammed the
don't
book
slam
on
the table.
All right. Being Italian, I'm trying very hard not to talk with my hands and do that, Pat. All right. So my next book is called Content Marketing, and it is by a man that I absolutely idolize. His name is Andy Crestodina, and he is a founder of Orbit Media Studios in Chicago, right here in our own hometown. This book, so when I started reading this book of content marketing, it's actually called Content Chemistry. Excuse me. When I started reading this book, I endeavored to get better as a website content writer. It's all about website writing. And I grabbed my yellow marker and grabbed my pencil. I was going to write notes in the margins and my little tabs. And I started underlining. And then I realized that every line, just about, I was underlining. So that's how good this book is.
I see 30 little tabs in this book here.
Yes. And one of the things I love is that Andy has throughout the book these quotes by different people. So I thought I would just read one. She was the chief content officer for Copy Blogger and Rainmaker Digital, Sonia Simone. And she says, Google is a lot like that really mean girl from high school. Your best shot at getting her to like you is to ignore her while you go about getting social sharing, links, and publicity. And it goes on a little bit longer, but I love that. It's just approachable writing, and it is grassroots. It gives you everything you need to know, everything to write a great website and to as he says, not write a great website, but assemble a great website, which I think that little nugget is really brilliant. You don't write a website, you assemble it. And then near the end, I thought this was really interesting. He said, "Fear not. Almost nothing is as high stakes as it seems. Yes, there are examples of spectacular failures in social media. There are nightmare stories of collapsing search engine rankings, but these stories are rare relative to the millions of businesses doing content marketing." Pat, oftentimes when I'm meeting with clients or prospective clients, they point to the website as being the bane of their existence. And this book gives us confidence and answers to how to do it right.
It's a beautiful looking book, too. It looks really beautifully illustrated. Lots of concrete examples.
Definitely.
From what I've seen from here. So
checklists, examples, quotes, everything you need for a great reading experience. So Content Chemistry by Andy Crestodina, our own Chicago hometown website firm, Orbit Media Studios.
Awesome. All right. My next book is by Anita Nielsen, Beat the Bots. This is a really interesting book because it goes to the reason that she wrote this book was there's a concern out there with machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Especially in the B2C space, that salespeople are slowly being automated out of a job.
Boo. That sounds so scary.
It does sound scary, right? Because we talk about AI and how it's going to put all truck drivers out of work and taxi drivers and, and all kinds of things like that.
Writers. There's going to be a bot that takes my job away. I just know it.
There is. I mean, you can see in Google, it's starting to write my emails for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
How would you like to phrase this, Pat? And it gives you one choice. I'm like, I could think or I could just go along with it.
Right.
And people just go along with it, hit the tab button and move on. What she is saying here is like, oh, that's baloney. She goes, yeah, there's B2B and yeah, there's B2C, but all sales is really H to H, human to human.
Love that.
And she kind of explains how this works. She has an interesting story that she shares in here from another writer, but then she uses it to illustrate it throughout the whole book. This idea of the rider on the elephant, and that the rider kind of like is the rational part of this traveling that knows the direction it wants to go and why it wants to go there, but the elephant's kind of the emotion of it. And if the two don't align together, they can't go in one direction. So when you're selling, you have to work both the rational side and the feeling side, the emotional side.
Yes.
And the whole book is just filled like that, which makes it a whole lot of fun. She's got a great quote in here that says,
does she talk about Aristotle at all? Because that's the basis for his argumentation. Empathy and authority and a balance of both. And AI will never have the heart that people do.
Yeah, some people think otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think that AI can figure out the heart. I listened to an interesting podcast on this last fall, but I'm skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
I'm skeptical. She gives a lot of examples in here too of letters. Like this one, she says here, I know you're trying to figure out the best way to get your executives on board with your cloud strategy. I did some research for you, and I came across some attached articles I thought might find helpful. I highlighted the points that I think you'll find the most relevant. Take a look and see if you have any questions. That'd be like an email she'd send.
Sure.
Not selling, not pitching. Like, I know you've got a struggle here. Here, take this and let me help you. And that requires EQ in order to do that. And that's what this book's all about. Really fun lady. I met her in person, Anita Nielsen. Oddly, she's from the south suburbs. She's from Chicagoland too here. So
we need a party. Invite all the Chicago authors.
So that's Beat the Bots, How Your Humanity Can Future-Proof Your Tech Sales Career.
Love it. That's a good
Anita
one.
Nielsen.
I am adding all of these to my reading list. All right. The next one is a man of the hour that we have heard about so much, from his multi-million-dollar TED Talk to his many books that that continue to influence us. Simon Sinek. So every year, you're laughing. It was worth that intro, wasn't he? Every year,
The Know Your Why guy.
Know Your Why guy. Every year, K+L Storytellers gives a book to our clients, and this was our 2018 pick at Christmas time. So it's called Find Your Why. And of all of his books, I really felt like this one was the change maker for us, because we figure out brand, we figure out content, and none of that is possible if an organization or a person doesn't clearly understand why they exist, what their purpose is. And from everything that I've read, and Pat, I'd be interested in your opinion, this is the year of the purpose-driven company. People are tired of being sold to. They want to align themselves with organizations that have the similar values and a vision that aligns with their values and vision. So Finding Your Why, this is it is a handbook. It is step-by-step what you need to do. And I'm not going to read from the book, but I'm going to give you a couple of my notes that I wrote in the margin that were really powerful for me. Living your why leads to better culture. It's tangible. Another little note I wrote in here was better culture defined leads to hiring for fit, not just skills, and deep human connections. And of course, that's exactly what you were talking about in the book that you were just reviewing. It is all about the human connection, the human heart. And then finally, our why gives us a unified sense of purpose. So if everybody in an organization understands their why, then you're all telling the same story. So taking the time to find your why, and I'll give you a quick tip on how to do this based on this book. Ask the people in your organization to share stories they're very proud of in their career at your company. Get them in the room. Get a little whiteboard going. Grab those colored markers. Write those stories almost like titles of a movie or of a book on the whiteboard, and have people share their proudest moments, not the $1 million deal that they sold last week to a client, but their proudest moments, the ones like a client called at 6 a.m. and said, I am on my way to the meeting and I don't have something that I need, and I know you can help me get it. So where you really felt good about what you were doing, find your why, explore it, ask for the stories that make people feel proud, and then from that, have your why race to the top. It's exciting. It's really exciting. It feels good, and it comes from your organization, from inside it. So Find Your Why. Simon Sinek, best-selling author, and seems like a really great and insightful person.
Boom.
And I just slammed the book down.
Boom.
I'm so sorry. Okay, 1 for 1.
So picture asking for these stories, your why, for your prospective clients. Why are you guys in business here? When were you most proud with some of the sales you've made with your clients?
Great idea.
And if they were to tell you those stories, they would feel like, wow, these people really get me.
Great idea. I'm going to piggyback one more idea for everybody listening today, and that is the founder's why is oftentimes the company's why. Almost always.
Yep.
If you can talk to the founder of the company and really understand why it became the company that it has become, then you have great insight into the why of the company.
Yep.
Cool. Tag, you're it.
Tag my mitt.
Hit us up.
The next one is Bittersweet. This book is The Art of Prospecting, Your Guide to Get in the Door by the late Steve Kloida. Steve was a friend of mine, actually reran an interview I did with him about 3 or 4 years ago. And he passed away, I think it was February last year.
Oh, I'm sorry for your loss.
Great guy from Minnesota.
Oh.
Minnesotan.
Oh,
and,
hey there.
And his wife is still running his email autoresponder.
Wow.
And I've emailed her a few times, and it's still running and still promoting his book here. I think this was his swan song, because he finished this book just before he passed, And it is a terrific book. This guy is an expert on how to generate leads and turn them into opportunities.
Ooh.
So he was really good at calling people up on the phone or shaking hands with them and whatnot, and immediately turning it into a real conversation, a sales conversation. And the book is just filled with little scripts on what to say and how to say it. He would have these little golden nuggets, like this one is a great one. What is your unique prospecting message, which is actually what I think of as your value proposition.
Yes.
We have created a unique / innovative / proven approach, pick one, he says, to do something that will eliminate some pain and increase their pleasure. So he would say, figure what that is out for you, so that when people say, well, what are we talking about? Then you just spit that out. How many times have you been in a network when people say, what do you do? And they can't do that.
Right. Yes, it sounds like a book that has great intentionality behind it. Be intentional with your words.
Did you know that's my vision of the year for me?
No, I had no idea.
My 2020 goal set is that abandon chance and live a life of intention.
I can't believe it, and I just said it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome for you. Awesome for me.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Good, really good stuff. Yeah, the book is just filled with like little scripts in here, and like highly recommend it. By Steve Kloida, terrific guy.
So, do you have an example? I mean, a quick example of how you have used something from that book, because I think that seems like a gem. That book seems like a gem. Like we could really use that advice in our lives. And I see it's how many pages? I mean, 100. I mean, I can't believe it's more than 100 pages.
Yeah, it's around 100 It's around 120. Yeah.
120 pages. So what a gem.
Yeah, it's like here, like let's say you're calling somebody up for the first time. You're literally cold calling them because you've learned something about them that you think they might be a good fit. Somebody told you they might be a good fit, or like, so I would say, hey, Michelle, this is Steve Kloida. I'm the prospecting expert. I know you weren't expecting my call today. Is this a convenient time to talk?
Respectful.
And
how respectful is that?
And if they go, yeah, they go, great. And they say no, they go, oh, great, that's fine. When would a good time be to follow up?
Mm-hmm. And
then they'll probably say, well, what's this about? Mm-hmm. And then you go into the unique value proposition.
Right. I love that. The common thread in a lot of these books is be human. If I had to sum it up, be human.
Be human. Be authentic.
Be authentic, absolutely.
I think that's the other intention for this time. Not only to do things of purpose, like you said before, right, but also to be authentic, which I guess they're maybe the same. If you're authentic of having purpose, as opposed to being authentic, and this is an important thing, of just being about making money.
Right.
Gary Vee was just, I've been listening to a lot of Gary Vee.
He's wild. He's wild.
He says you can really see that. People who have a transactional view versus people who have a relationship view.
Right. And I don't think a company in this day and age, I just don't think that having a transactional mantra, I don't think it's sustainable.
I don't think so.
I really don't.
Nope.
So no matter what you do to bring the relational aspect to it, we have a client who's a contract packager in Batavia, Green Seed Contract Packaging, and this is an industry that is very transactional, very commodity driven. Yet they have differentiated themselves by being relational and being purpose driven and being authentic with their content and with the way they treat people and the way they help people grow. I mean, this is the path for a successful company in 2020 and beyond.
Yep.
So, all right, next book. One of my faves. I love this book. It's called Big Magic. Creative Living Beyond Fear by Elizabeth Gilbert. You may know her as the author of Eat, Pray, Love. Great book as well. That was her signature book and the one that really inspired her to become a big author, big name. And this book is about having the courage to create. Now, this is a book for all of us. We are all creative creatures, all of us. And when we're in the selling, when we are in the selling environment, we have to remember that we are creative people who are helping someone else grow and be the best version of themselves. So when we embrace creativity, we also embrace the opportunity to help others and to be our best selves. So she has some things in here that I just thought that were really outstanding. A creative life is an amplified life. It's a bigger life, a happier life, an expanded life. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, even a person who works with numbers is creative. You know why? Because they solve problems. If you solve problems in your day, you are creative. Ideas are alive. So I'm reading from the book here. Ideas are alive, that ideas do seek the most available human collaborator. Ideas do have a conscious will. Ideas do move from soul to soul. Ideas will always try to seek the swiftest and most efficient conduit to the earth. So she tells a story in here of an author friend of hers who was writing a book, and they got together for lunch, and she said, I want to tell you all about my book. She's talking to Elizabeth Gilbert, the author. And she said, her friend said, this is my book, blah, blah, blah. Here's the name of it, blah, blah, blah. And Elizabeth leans forward and says, I had that same idea X number of years ago. I was going to write that book, and it was going to be called whatever. And the other person said, no way. And they had the exact same idea. The difference was her friend acted on it. Elizabeth didn't. So her point in the book is that an idea will tap you on the shoulder, but if you do not seize it, it will go on to somebody else. Like, ideas don't just hang around, waiting for you to act on it. They will go to someone else. So I thought that was really fascinating. I do believe that.
There's a saying that goes, there was a class I took on that said ideas are like farts. That everybody has them. And if you don't take action on them, they just dissipate. And that's really the distinction, which is, I think, what you said right there. It's easy to have an idea about something, but until you take action on it, it will disappear.
Right. Take a chance. And here's what I find in so many of us who are, full-fledged card-carrying adults, our confidence in our own creativity is a real challenge. So here's what I'm going to say. I mean, go for that idea, write that email, and spend some time really crafting it. Present your ideas, share them with the world, and really make a difference by being your creative self and bringing your best creative self forward. So this is Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear by Elizabeth Gilbert. We're
creators.
All of us, every single one.
We really need to acknowledge this. That we're happiest when we're doing.
We're happiest when we're doing. We're happiest when we're making something that wasn't there before. That really is magic. Like, we get the opportunity to have a magical life every single day.
We do.
All of us, every single one of us.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. I love it. Totally agree. The other book I've got here is Chaos to Clarity, the Success Journal by Marianne Renner. I had Marianne on. You know Marianne.
Love Marianne.
What I really like about this book is that it's a very practical way for a person to become mindful of what's going on in their lives and to create a path that makes sense for them. It's all about this idea of we often live in a very chaotic world. There's a lot going on. How can I somehow wrangle this and to get clarity on what's the direction I ought to go? And what this book is, it's a little book. It's not a very big book. She has 3 sections in here where each day it's up for as a diary where you have affirmations, celebrations, and appreciations.
Beautiful.
And she has little ideas at the top, little quotes at the top to kind of like to get you thinking. Like this one here I just turned randomly. Don't let best get in the way of better.
love that. We strive for perfection so much in our lives, and then we fail because we haven't hit that high mark. But just trying something. You're halfway there.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's got today. I believe in this. You write this affirmation down. You write today my successes were, and she forces you to write 3 successes down, so you're not all getting all negative. And then she has you write your appreciations. Today I'm grateful that I have 3 things going on in my life. So really terrific book. Marianne Renner, think all the world of her. Really enjoy spending time with her. That was a fun episode. So little book, a lot of interest in this book. A lot of people reach out to me about this book. So I highly recommend that.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, so for my book number 5, it is a marketing guru favorite. Seth Godin's This Is Marketing. Now, this was our 20th.
Love Seth Godin.
Who doesn't love Seth Godin?
I've been listening to him and reading his books for years. Been listening to his Akimbo podcast. Highly recommend it.
Have you read this one yet?
No.
This Is Marketing. Okay. I'm so happy to hear that because on air, Pat doesn't even know this is about to happen. So This Is Marketing by Seth Godin was K+L Storyteller's 2019 book of choice for our clients. And we presented one of these to every one of our clients. And today, Pat, I'm presenting it to you as my gift to you because, we love books. We define ourselves through words. And I want you to have a copy of this as well. So,
thank you.
You are so welcome. But first, I must look at it before I hand it to you.
I'll lend it to you if you want.
Thank you. I've got a few extra, but thank you. I might ask to borrow one of your other books, though. So this is just a great book. This is a compilation of his blogs, which I want to point that out because for all of you who want to write a book, look to your blogs as one possibility. We call them at K+L Storytellers, we call them blooks, from blog to book. So if you're interested in writing a book, look at blogging for a year and then stitching those together in a book. And that's really what he has done here. But what I love about this book is, first of all, every section is like a page. So it's easily digestible. Everything from, thinking about better. You mentioned better in the last book. Better isn't up to you. But the overriding message of this book, and this is what my big takeaway was, if you are selling something, you are in the wrong business. If you are serving people with the products and services that you sell, you are in the right business. And that's what I loved about this book. It is totally about being a servant leader, a servant seller, a servant thinker. And that's a really beautiful way to feel and to think. It's a beautiful way to run a business. It's a beautiful way to be part of a team. So, Pat, I am handing Seth Godin's This Is Marketing over to you.
Awesome.
And I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
You can't be seen until you learn to see.
Yes, the subtitle.
He's the master.
He is the master.
I think all the world of this man. I'd love to get him on Sales Babble someday.
That would be awesome.
That's not going to happen.
I'll just get his coffee. Like if you get Seth Godin on Sales Babble, can I get your coffee, Mr. Godin, please? I'll do that part.
Yeah. I highly recommend. I highly recommend all of his books. Yeah.
So you have one more.
What's my turn?
You have one more, and then I'm sneaking in a bonus book.
Yeah. I'm going to let you do that. This is my 5th book. You've already done your 5.
I know I did my 5, but I'm going to do a bonus one.
This book came from Tom Pisello, the ROI guy. It's called The Frugalnomic Survival Guide: How to Use Your Unique Value to the Market Better. How to use your unique value to market better, stand out, and sell more. And this is what I really like about this book is, first off, it's just really beautiful. It's almost set up like a college book too. It's got great illustrations, and it makes a lot of things super simple. It's like if you're trying to build a marketing campaign, he lays it all out here. It kind of reminds me of your website book.
Yes, Content Chemistry.
He talks about differentiation. Again, talks about your unique value proposition, how to nail that down, how to spend wisely with your money. He talks about how he kind of splits the whole book up into like 4 sections. What is the challenge you have? What is the loss? What are the opportunities? And what are the solutions? And he kind of walks through each one of them. And it's just really extremely well done. It's B2B heavy, but although I think it would have that value in a lot of other areas.
I love that it spells it out because I think it's such a gray area. When you talk marketing, it's really hard, especially if you don't do it 24/7, to know what really do I have to get down on paper in order to put this together and be successful.
I totally agree. I just opened the book up and it just says the same thing right here.
No way. We're totally doing this.
Like
this mind thing this morning.
we don't need more content. We need better content.
Right. Better seems to be the word of the day.
Yeah, real terrific book. Highly recommend it. Frugalnomics, easily the prettiest book that I read.
Prettiest.
But also had the most value. This is a solid. This is not a hack.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just kind of like hack together a book. This is a really a terrific guide. Highly recommend it. And that's my 5th book.
All right. I'm sneaking in a little bonus right here at the end. This is a book. I actually happened to speak with the author this morning on my way here, and it was just a total coincidence that this all lined up today. But Jennifer Fonderve wrote a book called Now What? A Survivor's Guide for Thriving Through Mergers and Acquisitions. And what I love about this book, and I'm about halfway through it, so I'm a good Catholic girl. I'm going to be honest. I didn't finish the book yet, but I'm on my way. And this book is so relevant to what is happening right now. We're seeing a ton of M&A happening in business, and a lot of people coming together, consolidation in the marketplace. And having worked on M&A messaging, transitioning messaging for companies.
M&A's marketing and advertising?
Mergers and acquisitions. So sorry.
I'm glad I asked.
I am too. And I always tell my children, don't assume. And here I am assuming people know. No, mergers and acquisitions, companies coming together of all sizes, small right on up to the Fortune 500. What we have found is that there's a lot of bloodshed, and it doesn't have to be that way. Companies merge or they get acquired, and there's so much unhappiness and fear and lack of communication. And Jennifer Fonderve has written a great book here about mergers and acquisitions, why they occur, the people side of it, the stages of grief, how to communicate it to your team. And it's just, and she even has a cast of characters post M&A, like the former rock star, the great unifier, the Black Widow. It's just a fun book to read, but it's also very relevant because when mergers and acquisitions happen, people's lives are changed and there's fear, and we do not have to live that way. Mergers and acquisitions should make a good company, 2 good companies, one great company. And this book really tells how to navigate that journey. I just love it. So great book. Now What? A Survivor's Guide for Thriving Through Mergers and Acquisitions. Jennifer J. Fonderve. That is my bonus book. This is the week of Valentine's Day, Pat, and we're talking about books that we absolutely love and that are enduring in our hearts, and it's been so much fun.
It has been fun. In fact, I'm thinking, if it's okay with you, I think I'm going to publish this Tuesday.
Beautiful.
So it'll be pretty close. Since we just mentioned it's Valentine's Day, which is on Friday.
Yes.
I think I'm going to push out the other one. I have like 2 months in the can.
Oh, I know you have so many.
I like being way ahead, but I think I really like this one, and I like to get it in quick. So, yes, the love. We're giving love. Will you be our Valentine? This is the love we're.
Mwah, 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 mwah. I'm sending kisses.
Off to the Ethernet it goes. Right. Yeah. Good stuff. I have 2 other questions of you. how can people find you? And tell us about your company.
Oh, K+L Storytellers. Well, speaking of love, my partner in crime in K+L Storytellers is also my husband, Roderick Kelley. And our firm is a content company. We help people who want to change the world get their story out. That's truly what our mission is, because when people understand your story, they are more likely to support you and to follow you and to help you become successful, and then you can help them become successful. So K+L Storytellers is a content company, and we're right in Aurora, Illinois. How can people get a hold of us? Well, would be honored if you visited our website, klstorytellers with an S at the end.com. And of course, Michele Kelley, I am on LinkedIn. I think the /storylove is my URL for my LinkedIn, Michele Kelley /storytellers or /storylove on LinkedIn. And that'd be wonderful for us to connect.
Who is your ideal prospect? Who's your ideal client?
Purpose-driven, culture-driven companies, small to upper middle market, who are looking to tell their story and be understood so that they can better change the world. If you need great content and content ideas, and even if you just want to talk through a few things, let me know. My contact information is on my LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you about your story.
Awesome. Michele, thanks for visiting us here in sales. Thanks for babbling here. This has been a ton of fun.
I love it. Love it.
I'm really glad we came up with this idea.
I love it.
I would like to do it again. Let's do it an annual thing.
Yeah. See, we're on that same page, Pat. I love it.
Of course, I'm making a bunch of emails saying that was the worst episode. I'll look at my downloads and go, nobody listened to this episode.
Oh, are you kidding? I'm Italian. I've got a lot of relatives. I'm going to tell them all to download it.
Yeah, I know this one ran long compared to most of them, so I appreciate anybody who's still listening. All right. Thank you, Michele.
Thank you, Pat. It was a pleasure.
Welcome back, Craig. Are you ready to babble a Nexus sales tip?
Ready, sir.
So, what's this week's tip?
This week's tip is follow a diagnostic process, not a sales process.
Well, what do you mean by that, by a diagnostic process?
Well, think about the contrast between the sales guy at the used car lot and your doctor. The process that your doctor follows is very much about asking you questions, right?
Right.
The guy in the car lot, he just wants to show you his fancy new car and tell you how cool it is, right?
Yep.
Treat your customers like your patient. You're the expert. You don't walk in the treatment room and immediately tell them what they need. You first ask them questions. What's happening in your life? How's it feel? Where does it hurt? How long's this been going on? Things like that. That's how you help them understand how your product is going to solve their problem.
Right.
Just be a doctor.
I love it. Craig, how can people find this sales tip online?
Just go to salesnexus.com/sales, and there you can get a PDF of all of the Sales Babble sales tips, and you can download a free copy of our 4 Steps to Market Domination Guide.
Cool. Very cool. Well, that sounds great. Can't wait for next week's tip, Craig. See you then.
See you next week.
Sales and marketing is often about setting goals and putting in long hours and hard work to achieve them. And regardless of what kind of business that you work for, it's likely that selling more is on the top of your 2020 yearly goals. This aspiration requires you staying up to date on techniques and honing strategies and being in touch with the latest industry news, which is why we did this episode. If you go to the show notes at www.salesbabble.com/308, you can get a list of the books that Michele and I talked about, as well as this week's Sales Nexus sales tip. Now make sure and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast app. That's all we got for this week, folks. Until next week, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.